Hello and good evening. It's Christmas Eve, and in the spirit of Christmas, I'm doing my last minute shopping. That's right, I need to get a present for my mom and my dad, and I actually did think about this like a day ago, so I'm way in advance of where I usually am. And so I was thinking about again what I could get my parents. I mean, you could say that my parents are the reason I'm here. My parents have done a lot. They're not just my mom and dad. Well, they are my mom and dad. But anyway, they've done a lot for me, for my children, for a family, everything. So I kind of want to talk about them today in this video. I was thinking about getting them something, but and I do. Whenever I bought this for them in Turkey, the family, Pfanstiel family, Papa, PF, and then they gave it to me. So every gift I get them, not it seems. I somehow it ends up coming back to me, a couple of years later. So I figured, hey, instead of buying them stuff that they're just gonna declutter in a couple of years and give to me, I thought I'd do this video. So I'm excited about this. It's actually gonna be two parts because one of the things I'm gonna take my parents' advice, and they've told me to make my videos longer. No, shorter. I don't hear right, apparently. No, make them shorter. So I'm gonna make two videos. So I'm still gonna make it 30 minutes, but like two 10 to 15 minute videos. First one, I want to talk about my parents. So my mom and dad, or as they're known in the world, Carl and Roberta Pfanstiel. That's my dad and my mom. And here's a video that they did. And I'm not trying to plug my business, but it's actually, they're one of the major investors. So if my business does well, then I'm sure they're not going to be upset about that. So I have this business card somewhere on the screen, Legacy Biographers. So, and I did a video. They were my first victims. First people I shot. That's right. I go into people's homes and shoot older people. I'm a monster. No, I have a video, and so my little side business. I'm gonna try to move from the side to the front, but so I did a video of them. They're pretty interesting people, but I want to talk about them from son's point of view. First of all, I was at a prayer meeting with my mom this week, and they were talking about my parents' 50th. So first of all, my parents have been married 50 years, and they have 6 children. So for those who don't know, there are 6 children. I'm number 5. That's what they called me for many years until they decided to name me. My parents are really cool people, and I'm very blessed. And, that was the thing. So I went to this meeting the other day with my parents, and they were bragging. The people on the meeting were so impressed about my parents' 50th, and this is going to be a video for another time. But we don't appreciate. I don't. I kind of take for granted certain things. I take for granted that my mom and my dad have been supporting me and helping me throughout my life. I take it for granted that I have brothers and sisters who will give me their opinion freely. And it's good opinions, and they have many of them, and they bless me with them quite often, and I return the favor. So it's just kind of that family thing, which I'll come back to. But we don't appreciate things sometimes. I always look at what I don't have, and so that's going to be a video for another day. I'm trying to look at what I do have, trying to be more thankful. Okay, but my parents are a big blessing. So I'm going to start with my mom, ladies first. So my mom, kind of just to describe her a little bit, she is deep. She is a very deep thinker. She's a great listener. And she has really good advice, and I hope that I've caught that ability to listen. Sometimes I don't know, but because I want to talk, but she's a really good listener. She gives really good advice, and she's also a prayer warrior. She's a woman of God, and I don't say that lightly. There's a lot of women of God. There's a lot of godly women, but my mom is a very, she'll pray. And she'll fight, and she's kind of like that mama bear kind of thing. She'll fight. She's fought for all of her kids, and because she's so deep, sometimes she's misunderstood. People don't get her, and then being married to my dad, who's a sanguine. Everybody loves my dad, and everybody gets along with my dad, and then my mom is much deeper, and they're a good complement to each other. They work really well together. But I've always appreciated about my mom. She's a very good listener. I remember when I was little, and I'm going to say most of my stories for the second video, but I remember when I was little, I had a speech impediment. I talk because I couldn't tell my all my S's. Right? And so I talk and nobody got what I'm saying. I remember my mom, she would get my face, she'd be like, okay, and she'd look straight at my face trying to understand what I was saying. And I'm like, Mom, I'm not talk like or whatever. And she would look straight at me, and so she's a very good listener, and she really cares. And one of the things, that kind of a testimony to her, is she hears from God, and I don't say that lightly. I mean, but I remember her. I remember her telling me before 9/11 that she was in a prayer meeting and they saw pillars of fire on the East Coast. Okay, and then this prayer group we're in now, there was we were praying for Dallas 2 weeks before the thing in Dallas happened, and then she also, I remember when my brother John went to Iraq and he was in Mosul. I remember her telling John and telling family that she had prayed about and she had heard from God that John was going to go, and he and all of his men were going to come back alive. And he was a National Guard. He was in a unit, I think 100 people, 100 men in his unit, men and women. And sure enough, John came back, and all of his men came back. And some of them were injured slightly, but there were no serious injuries. And him and all of his men and under his command came back. And now, okay, well, sadly, and I saw my brother. He carries this wristband of the man who replaced him, because the man who was replaced him 2 weeks after my brother left, the man who replaced him was killed, and some interpreters and some other things. So, well, my mom had prayed and she had sought God, and God had told her her son was coming home, and a bomb while my brother was over there shortly before he came home, an Iranian-made bomb landed like a grenade basically about 5-10 feet from my brother, and if it had gone off, it would have killed him, and it didn't. And then they detonated it, so but it just didn't go off for some reason. So my mom is a very godly woman, and she sees things, she hears things, and she acts on them. So I think she's a good writer. I remember she's a great conversationalist, like I said, and she's a fighter. And she will fight for what she believes in. So I mean, she's not gonna just if she has something to tell you, she's gonna tell you, and I admire that. Now, then balances out with my dad. My dad is, like I said, is very friendly, very sanguine. Everybody loves my dad, and he's a very friendly guy. And he's a connector. He always sees how this person could connect with, and that's very. I think it's an anointing, really. But he's always looking for other people and how that could help. And he's always like thinking of other people and how they connect and all this. He's also very generous. He and my mom are both very generous people. And he's always. What I love, my dad's a pediatrician. My mom's she was a homemaker. She took care of us kids, raised 6 children. But she has a master's in social work, but she kind of gave that up. She did give that up to take care of us, and so she was our little social worker. She's always keeping us, socially, together. And she gave great advice. Like I said, she's a great conversationalist. But my dad, he would always have these ideas, and of course he's a doctor, right? But he'd always have these ideas of how to do this and this, and I see myself doing the same thing. I'm telling people, hey, you should do this and this. But he always has these ideas, and I see my brother with the same kind of ability, tons of ideas. Now we just focus on one and do it, right? So but he's a connector. I was just thinking about in my life the different people he's connected me to, like the distributor on my evolution creation was one of his, the doctor that came through. My friend the Farrells I've talked about. My dad's very humble. One of the things many things I love about my dad is he'll be the first to apologize. And he tries to be, he's a man of peace. And I've seen that in this year with what's going on in my life. My parents have never, they've never and I think this is a good thing, my family as well, they haven't been antagonistic toward my in-laws, and they've been like, well, how can we make it right? How can we fix this? What do they want? What can we do? And my family is a family of peace, and now I think there's peace through strength. I mean, my brother John, who's a SWAT officer in the police department of St. Louis, and He's a tough guy. We're a strong family, but we're a man of peace, family of peace. I think we get that from my dad. I think if it was up to my mom, we would, she's more of the fighter, like I said. My dad wants to have peace. And so, anyway, he's a hard worker. Both my parents are hard workers, and I caught that from them. It's like a disease. No, we love it. I mean, my family, we're all hard workers. Everyone in the family has been a hard worker. He's got an interesting sense of humor. And this actually kind of leads to how they raised us. So they had 6 children, have 6 children. And I was like I said, number 5. And I never felt pressure to be a certain thing. I was never pressured to be an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer or anything. I was free to kind of choose my own path. Now, it was expected we'd go to college. And actually, I chose to go to a college where the president of the college had fired my dad 10, 15 years earlier. And that's another thing about my dad. Being that humble, he forgives. He doesn't hold things. He doesn't hold grudges against people. He's very quick to forgive and let things go. And I think maybe he learned that when he got fired from the City of Faith. He got an ulcer after that. So I think he learned that from there. But he taught us that. We were never encouraged to hold grudges. We were always encouraged to forgive and let things go and just keep going, right? And so I ended up going to college where the president was the guy who fired my dad. And my dad wasn't against it. He kind of released me to make my own path and to go my own way. Again, it was always in our family. It wasn't, we were always, what college are you going to? It wasn't, are you going to college? So there was expectation of going to college. I think all of his kids, have advanced degrees in one thing or another. But we kind of did it on our own, in our own time, in our own way. But we were always supported. But we were kind of free to kind of choose our own path. The other thing that I love with my parents growing up is, I'll tell some stories in the next video. But we were encouraged to think for ourselves. We were encouraged to, it probably goes back to my mom, who's a fighter, but we'd have lots of debates, lots of arguments, lots of discussions at the family table. We'd always eat meals together, and we'd have a lot of discussions. I remember the first time I disagreed with my mom. I was so proud of myself. I think I was like 14. And I was so proud of myself, and of course, I took the wrong side of the argument. I actually argue about gun control, and I was like, well, it's stupid for people to have guns with lots of bullets in them. Why do you need that if you're just hunting? And I was like, Mom, you're crazy. Of course, now I'm like, that's not the point of guns, Well, part of it's hunting, but that's a totally different thing. But I remember arguing with my parents, and that was okay. We were encouraged to do that. And humor. They encouraged us to think. They also gave us a very well-balanced education, kind of exposed us to a lot of different things. We grew up charismatic, and we also went to Bill Gothard's, like this basic life seminar kind of thing. So we were involved in the homeschooling movement, which is very legalistic in a way, and I would say they were more character focused, but they also kind of got a little legalistic. And then charismatic, which was kind of flaky. So they were like, well, let's get eat the hay and spit off the sticks. You need a exposure of a wide variety of things, and they did that. And so they got us, they exposed us to a lot of things. That leads to some of the stories in the next part. But anyway, so I wanted to just take a moment and just kind of brag about my parents. Very, very thankful for them. It kind of goes back to the legacy biography kind of idea, is a lot of times we just assume people know these things. We assume that how much people mean to us, they know, right? We don't need to tell them. But no, I just want to tell my mom and my dad in front of all 31 YouTube subscribers or whatever, whoever watches this. I just really thankful for my parents. They've set a godly example through their lives, through their relationship with each other, through their relationship with us, their relationship with others. They're always been very honest and very, even when they were betrayed and when their house was trashed in Charlotte and stuff, they never got bitter and they never held it. And they forgave and they moved on. And God has really blessed them and has protected them and has protected their children, and now their 21 grandchildren. And no great-grandchildren yet, thankfully, but they've been very blessed, and I am very blessed that they're my parents. And so This is one Christmas present they can't return to me. So when they declutter in a few years, they can't send it back. So anyway, I love you, Mom and Dad. I'm so thankful to be your son, and I'm so glad that you're my parents.